Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight, India and the United States have signed a major 10-year defense cooperation framework, marking a new phase in the strategic ties between the two sides. We are telling you all that you need to know along with the significance. That's coming up in just a bit. Also getting you the updates from the battlefield. As Russia continues to press harder, Ukraine faces the growing shadow of financial collapse. We tell you more about what's happening. Is Hezbollah once again quietly preparing for war? We get you the complete story. All this and more coming up. India and the United States have signed a major 10-year defense cooperation framework, a deal that marks a new phase in the strategic ties between the two sides. The agreement was signed by the Defense Minister of India, Rajnath Singh, and the US Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. The defense framework, described as a cornerstone for regional stability, aims to deepen defense industrial collaboration, enhance technological cooperation, and boost information sharing between the two countries. The US War Secretary referred to it as a new era in defense partnership, one that reaffirms India as a priority partner in America's vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific. The timing here is important. This new defense cooperation framework between India and the United States comes at a time when ties between the two countries have been slightly derailed over the tariff tensions and the trade disputes. This deal, in many ways, is a reinstatement of that deep partnership, a reset in strategic trust.
Good. All those up.
I want to express the gratitude to the Minister Singh, for his time, for the partnership we have with India. It's one of the most consequential, the U.S.-Indian relationship in the world. And this new 10-year defense framework, which we signed, is ambitious. It's a significant step for our two militaries, a roadmap for deeper and even more meaningful collaboration ahead. It underscores America's long-term commitment to our shared security and our strong partnership between our countries. We have a major defense partnership that is ongoing and made even more powerful by this agreement. So, sir, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
We will keep meeting. This occasion, we are signing the defense framework for 10 years, which I am sure will open new doors for our defense relationship. Thank you so much, and also under your leadership, we will be able to do more bilaterally on the defense sector.
Now, there are three pillars to this new framework as we see it. First, intelligence sharing. India and the US already cooperate closely through existing frameworks and agreements, like, for example, COMCASA, Communications, Compatibility and Security Agreement, which basically allows for exchange of geospatial information. The new framework could take that coordination further, deepening trust, possibly bringing India even closer to the intelligence networks of Western allies. For India, that means better situational awareness along its borders and across the Indo-Pacific. For the US, it means a stronger intelligence ally in a region where China's influence continues to expand. Second, technology cooperation. Now, this has been a long-standing focus of the India-US ties, from co-development of jet engines and drones to joint research in cybersecurity, AI, space tech. The new agreement builds on that legacy, creating a long-term policy framework to enable more defense production and deeper technology transfer. Third, military coordination. India and the US already holding several war games together, now joint exercises, interoperability, defense dialogues expected to get a whole new level of depth. This all supports India firmly back at the center of America's Indo-Pacific strategy, reviving momentum in groupings like the Quad and signaling a stronger security role for New Delhi in regional theaters. Now, having said that, let's not forget the framework also highlights India's unique position as far as global strategy is concerned. India is one of the only nations that maintains defense partnerships with both America and Russia and continue to grow cooperation with other countries, like, for example, France. Optically, the timing is also significant. India's deal with America coming as Pakistan tries to rebuild ties with Washington, even floating proposals for a new port and rare earth mining access. But the New Delhi-Washington deal reinforces where the priority lies: in a stable, strategic, and mutually beneficial partnership. Meanwhile, India continues to pursue its balanced foreign policy, engaging with global powers on its own terms, maintaining strategic autonomy, and deepening defense links through multilateral exercises like Operation Milan, which this year will see participation from over 50 countries, including both the US and Russia. As the Indo-Pacific becomes the defining theater of global power rivalry, the signing of this framework today signals a clear message that India is a strategic player, one that the world's major powers cannot afford to ignore. But it also comes with questions. As India tries to maintain its strategic balance, its stance against tariff coercion, and as it looks to turn this agreement to its own advantage, to see what may not have been delivered in the past and what it should now exact as its price. In short, while this deal puts the India-US strategic partnership back on track, the real question is, how will India use this moment to its advantage? And what price will it demand for its partnership in the new global order? Meanwhile, India's outreach in the Mediterranean is gathering momentum, particularly with Cyprus. After Prime Minister Modi's visit early this year, both countries agreed on a 5-year action plan to expand defense cooperation. And now, the Foreign Minister of Cyprus says the partnership is entering a more practical phase, with a focus on joint training, naval presence, and even co-production of defense equipment. Here's what the Foreign Minister of Cyprus, told WION's Sidhant Sibil in an exclusive conversation.
We recently had the stationing of an Indian military vessel, a frigate, in Cyprus. So this is something we believe could become a more frequent event. We have been doing it with other friendly countries as well. The geostrategical position is such that allows for this kind of activity. Third, there is always the possibility of procurement in terms of military equipment that is being produced. Fourth, there could be some joint action and joint ventures, if you like, and common activity and collaboration in the production or the design or the testing or the implementation of various initiatives at the creation of defense material.
Let's now shift our focus to the Russia-Ukraine war, where Russia continues to press harder on the battlefield as Ukraine faces that growing shadow of financial collapse. Russia unleashed a fresh overnight attack on the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy. Kiev says 15 civilians, including 4 children, were injured. Video from Ukraine's emergency services showed the night sky turning orange amid multiple explosions in the area. Footage showed firefighters battling flames as residents fled through the smoke and debris. Ukrainian authorities claimed that Russian missiles struck residential areas and key infrastructure. The local governor has said a railway depot was also targeted, with several carriages destroyed and nearby buildings also damaged. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has claimed that Russian missile and drone strikes hit Ukraine's energy facilities, killing at least 4 people and injuring several others, including children. Zelensky accused Moscow of deliberately targeting civilians and power plants across 9 regions, including capital Kiev. Listen to this.
There were missiles, including ballistic ones and air-launched ballistic types. In total, 52 missiles and more than 600 strike drones were launched, around 400 of them Shaheds. Most of the drones were neutralized, and 2/3 of the missiles were also shot down.
In the central western city of Ladizhin, Russian drones and cruise missiles reportedly damaged more than 20 residential buildings and injured at least 5 people. Local residents describe the scenes of total devastation.
There is nothing left. Everything is destroyed. Absolutely everything. The refrigerator, everything that could be destroyed is destroyed. The walls have collapsed. There is nothing left.
On the battlefield, Russian forces continue to advance. Moscow has said it had captured a village in Ukraine's Dnipropetrovsk region. And Russia also faced its own disruption when Ukrainian drones hit a power plant in the western city of Oryol, prompting the authorities to restrict heat and hot water supplies. CCTV footage showed the exact moment the drone strikes had occurred. With winter approaching, both sides continue to intensify attacks on each other's energy grids. We've been telling you about this. In fact, the head of Ukraine's security service has claimed that they had launched almost 160 successful strikes, 160 successful strikes on Russian oil sites this year, further claiming that they had destroyed an Oreshnik missile in Russia in the summer of 2023. Now, while Moscow maintains momentum on the battlefield, Ukraine faces a far deeper crisis, an economic one. According to The Economist, Ukraine could run out of funds as early as February 2026 unless Europe steps in with more financial aid, as early as February 2026. In fact, the report warns of a savage cash crunch, quote unquote, saying Kiev's financial reserves are drying up rapidly. The report claims that 2 of Ukraine's key funding streams, US support and domestic borrowing, are already running dry. And that leaves Europe as the final lifeline. But even that, it seems, may not last. A Ukrainian lawmaker, remember, recently said that Western military aid has dropped 45% this year, with shipments arriving late and in smaller quantities. So, with international support reportedly fading and Kiev possibly running out of money in just a matter of, say, 3 months from now, the question is simple. Does an advancing Russia believe a bankrupt Ukraine will collapse by spring? For now, the answer may depend not only on how long Ukraine can actually fight on the battlefield and if things change, but also how long it can stay afloat financially. A year after a fragile ceasefire brought a halt to intense fighting between Israel and Hezbollah, Fresh intelligence now suggesting the Lebanese militant group is once again quietly preparing for war. According to reports, Hezbollah, backed and armed by Iran, has started rebuilding its weapon stockpiles and replenishing its ranks, which is in direct violation of the ceasefire agreement. The intelligence showing the group is restocking its arsenal of rockets, anti-tank missiles, and artillery. Some of those weapons, officials say, are being smuggled in through Syria and Lebanon's seaports, while others are being manufactured locally by Hezbollah itself. Under the terms of last year's deal, Lebanon was expected to begin disarming Hezbollah in stages. But instead, the group has done the opposite, expanding its weapons production and reasserting its presence across southern Lebanon. Hezbollah's leadership insists its weapons are vital to defend Lebanon's sovereignty against Israel, while Israeli officials view the build-up as a direct threat to their security and a clear breach of the truce. The rearmament marking a major setback for Lebanese authorities, who are under growing international pressure to rein in the group. Despite mediation by Arab and American intermediaries, Hezbollah's senior figures, including its leader, have publicly rejected any effort to disarm, calling instead for coordination between the Lebanese army and Hezbollah forces. In fact, the developments highlighting just how difficult it is to dismantle an entrenched militia that commands deep political and social support, even after being battered by war. And the tension is not confined to Lebanon, by the way. Israel launched a series of airstrikes on Gaza overnight, its heaviest bombardment since the truce went into effect earlier this month itself. It took place after an Israeli soldier was killed in an attack in the south of the Palestinian territory. And with Hezbollah rebuilding its arsenal, Israel responding with renewed force, fears are mounting that the region could once again be sliding towards a wider and far deadlier conflict. Ladakh trembled under thunder and fire. The skies blazed with rockets, artillery shells and drone swarms dancing in deadly formation. The Indian Army's Northern Command turned the frozen desert into a theater of pure power. Take a look.
The air cracked with sound. A deafening roar echoed through Ladakh's icy valleys. From the high ridges, multi-barrel rocket launchers unleashed fiery trails. Every blast shook the earth. Every explosion painted the horizon red. Rows of Bofors and K9 Vajra guns followed, their barrels tilting in perfect synchrony before hurling fire across the rugged terrain. Dust clouds rose, shimmering against the blue sky. The soldiers moved in, tight precision trained, calm, relentless. The Indian Army's Northern Command demonstrated its firepower in one of the most formidable battle exercises in recent years, called Astra Shakti. The high-altitude desert transformed into a theatre of combat innovation where technology met raw determination. Each explosion and rocket blast underscored India's capability to project power decisively and preserve its forces even in the world's toughest landscape. Astra Shakti declared readiness like never before, a roaring testament to precision, innovation and the indomitable spirit of the Indian forces. Bureau Report, WION The World.
And before we go on any further, a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. The Sudan horror worsening. We tell you more about where things stand on the ground along with the latest developments. How can a human-like protein be found on an asteroid? Well, it's happened. We are telling you more about this. You don't want to miss this. This year's word of the year, is a phrase that's gone viral. You already know about it perhaps. Getting you the details shortly. All this and more coming up. China, regarded as the world's factory, is running out of steam. The country's manufacturing activity has now contracted for 7 straight months. It's a long time, and the longest slump in nearly 9 years. The data shows factory output dropped sharply in October, with the official PMI falling to 49, signaling the biggest dip in 6 months. Just days before the Trump-Xi trade truce was announced. But that breakthrough has done little to actually lift confidence, it seems. New orders fell the most since 2023, by the way, hit by trade barriers and the sluggish demand at home. Analysts call it a discouraging start to the final quarter, a discouraging start, a sign that policy support is still needed in a way. China's Statistics Bureau has blamed the decline on fewer working days and a complex global environment. But economists point to a familiar headwind here, tensions with the United States, to put it simply. Last month, President Trump, remember, threatened 100% tariffs on Chinese imports, escalating his trade crusade. The output index dropped below 50 for the first time since April, when Trump's so-called Liberation Day tariffs were first imposed. China's export orders also hit a new low. For manufacturers, meanwhile, the latest Trump-Xi trade breakthrough that reduced some tariffs may offer temporary relief. But weak domestic demand as well as uncertainty in relations between the two sides will continue to cloud the outlook. Now, China's services sector did see a slight uptick thanks to the 8-day national holiday. But exporters are saying they are no longer relying solely on the US market, and that they have learned their lesson from years of trade turmoil, a feeling familiar to even allies of the US who have been on the receiving end of Trump's unfair trade war. Now, coming back to China, exports still account for about 1/3 of China's growth this year, helping it stay on track for around 5% annual expansion. But analysts are warning the final quarter could be China's slowest since the COVID-19 pandemic. The Chinese government has already rolled out a 1 trillion yuan stimulus package, including new funding for infrastructure and policy banks, and some expect more rate cuts and liquidity easing soon. Looking ahead, Beijing is double downing on tech as well as manufacturing, promising extraordinary measures to drive innovation and strengthen export controls in its next 5-year plan. The question still is, can China reinvent itself fast enough to stay the world's factory, or has that era already started to fade? We will have to wait and watch for that answer. When Halloween meets politics in Washington, D.C., the results can be spooky, sharply satirical in a way. This year, homes across the capital city have turned the season's fright into political commentary, taking aim at the Trump administration with their humor and elaborate displays. Spookily, in historic Georgetown, one townhouse calling itself the White House of Horrors, featuring skeletons dressed as Trump-era figures, including a camouflage-clad cosplay Christie, a nod to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. And just down the street, Christian Payne, who happens to live next door to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has placed a skeleton in her front window, holding a sign that reads, "Wish I had taken my vaccine." Now, for context here, Kennedy has been a vocal critic of the COVID-19 vaccine mandates and has pushed for expanded vaccine exemptions and reviews. At some homes, tombstones read, "I did my own research," quote unquote, and "Director of National Idiocy."
We knew we wanted to do something spooky, and it was our opportunity to send a little message because there's lot of things going on right now. So once again, I think that this is an opportunity just to send a little message. We just need it. I think we all need to speak out with what's going on.
I feel like interesting to see the signs and the declarations. I know he wants to draw more the people's attention about the vaccination and some healthy or research about the things people are concerned every day.
Political Halloween decor is nothing new in heavily democratic Washington, but this year's displays come as President Trump enters the 9th month of his second term and amid one of the longest government shutdowns in U.S. history, remember. Millions suffering due to the shutdown, concern rising, Americans blaming President Trump.
I love how they're expressing their opinions in such a spooky and unique way. A White House of Horrors, elect a clown, expect a circus. I thought that was so hilarious. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe someone came up with this kind of idea.
Across town on Capitol Hill, 79-year-old Donna Breslin has created the Project 2025 Graveyard, a mock cemetery mourning what she calls the deaths of public programs under Trump. Each headstone marking a cut or rollback from climate science and public broadcasting to due process.
I think it's great, and I think it's wonderful that we can all have a sense of humor about this.
America grinding to a halt, planes grounded, paychecks frozen, millions on the brink of hunger. The United States has entered its longest government shutdown in history, and the blame storm is only raging straight towards the U.S. president. The chaos is spreading across a nation that's running out of time, money, and patience.
Empty cupboards, empty airports, empty wallets. Across America, desperation is turning into fury as the historic shutdown enters its 5th week, leaving millions without food aid and hundreds of thousands without a paycheck. 41 million Americans face the loss of SNAP food benefits, the nation's largest nutrition lifeline. States are scrambling to plug the gap, but food banks say supplies are drying up fast.
And this is a big break, the SNAP, because when you go to grocery shopping now, it's high. If you got the SNAP, doesn't matter how much they give you, but that would be covered juice, milk, eggs. Everything costs a lot of money now. For me, having food stamp, because our work is dependent on your income. So affecting me, of course, because grocery is kind of high now.
Airports in Dallas, Washington, D.C., and Chicago are scenes of confusion. Flights delayed or canceled as exhausted air traffic controllers call in sick. The Federal Aviation Administration has warned of serious staffing shortfalls, grounding flights, and stretching safety systems to the limit. A new Washington Post poll shows most Americans now blame President Trump for the shutdown, a political showdown triggered by a standoff over spending and border funding.
I just want to say to any Democrat in the United States Senate, we are happy to talk about any policy issue. We're happy to talk about health care policy. We're happy to talk about tax policy. We're happy to talk about regulatory policy, but not at the point of a gun.
For Republicans, from the very beginning of this presidency, cruelty has been the point. And what has been driving their policy agenda is to make life better for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. That's what the one big ugly bill was all about.
What should have been a festive weekend has instead become a reminder of how deeply politics can disrupt ordinary lives. As children in the U.S. prepare for Halloween festivities, many of their parents are counting dollars, not candy. This shutdown is not just a political crisis, it's a humanitarian disaster unfolding on U.S. soil. The country's political leadership faces a stark choice: compromise now or watch communities struggle and economies falter. As the government remains shuttered, millions fight to survive in a winter darkened by hunger, halted flights, and broken promises. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
A major humanitarian disaster unfolding in Sudan. The paramilitary Rapid Support Force, better known as RSF, seized the city of Al Fasher in Darfur. We told you about this. What has followed is being described by medical groups and researchers as, quote-unquote, a genocide. Reports from Sudan's western Darfur region saying hundreds, possibly thousands, have lost their lives in the brutal attacks carried out by the RSF. The group captured Al Fasher, the Sudanese army's last stronghold in Darfur, after a siege that lasted nearly 17 months. The Sudan Doctors Network saying at least 1,500 people were killed in just 3 days as residents tried to flee the city. It called the attacks a deliberate campaign of killing and extermination. Grim videos from the city showing dead bodies lying bloodied, motionless both inside and outside a building, while armed gunmen patrol and film nearby. Aid groups saying they have evidence reportedly of executions, house-to-house raids, assaults on civilians escaping the city reportedly. The Sudanese government claiming the death toll in Al Fasher has already crossed 2,000. Humanitarian organizations warning that the real number may be much higher. Red Cross said Sudan is, quote-unquote, facing one of the most dramatic conflicts of our time, quote-unquote. The United Nations has warned of further mass killings and ethnic cleansing by the Rapid Support Force in the region.
As you have heard, Al Fasher, already the scene of catastrophic levels of human suffering, has descended into an even darker hell, with credible reports of widespread executions after Rapid Support Forces fighters entered the city.
The RSF has been fighting Sudan's army since 2023 in that civil war that has already claimed tens of thousands of lives and displaced more than 12 million people from their homes. Al Fasher's fall effectively hands the RSF control of nearly all of Darfur, a region still scarred by ethnic violence 2 decades ago. More than 10 years after the creation of South Sudan, the takeover raises concerns that Sudan could face another partition. Britain's King Charles III has officially stripped his younger brother, Prince Andrew, of all remaining royal titles and privileges. The dramatic move is unprecedented in the modern British monarchy. The move effectively ends Andrew's official status as a member of the royal family, and it comes after years of public outrage and mounting pressure on the royal family over Andrew's association with the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And the palace's statement also confirmed that the 65-year-old has been evicted from the Royal Lodge, which has been his long-time residence in Windsor, Great Park. He will move into private accommodation, reportedly on the King's estate in Norfolk. The decision is widely seen as King Charles's most decisive step yet to distance the monarchy from a scandal that has shadowed it for more than a decade now. Prince Andrew has consistently denied allegations made by one of Epstein's victims that she was sexually abused by him when she was 17. Buckingham Palace confirmed the decision to strip Andrew of his titles. It said the king had initiated a formal process to remove titles and honors of Prince Andrew. It means that from this point forward, he will no longer be referred to as Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, but simply as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
I think lots of voters up and down the country will think that this is the right thing to do at this stage. And of course, everybody's hearts will be going out to the family of Victoria Giuffre and, for that matter, all the other victims of Jeffrey Epstein's appalling misdemeanors. I mean, the truth is that whenever one of these stories comes back into the headlines, all the victims, they have to live through it all over again. So we support what the King's doing.
In the year 2022, Andrew reached an out-of-court settlement in a civil case filed in New York, paying millions of pounds but admitting no wrongdoing. The case followed his infamous 2019 BBC Newsnight interview in which he attempted to clear his name, an appearance that only deepened public criticism and led to his withdrawal from royal duties, reportedly. Andrew surrendered his title of Duke of York early this month amid growing condemnation, but this latest decision goes further, stripping him of the title Prince, which he has held since birth as the son of the late Queen Elizabeth II. In fact, Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, who had been living with him at the Royal Lodge, is also expected to leave the property and seek a new home. The disgraced royal is understood to be receiving limited private financial support from the king, reportedly. The royal family faces another reckoning, one that highlights King Charles's determination to protect the monarchy's reputation, even if it means cutting ties with his own family members. The Caribbean is turning into a battlefield, it seems. President Trump is reportedly preparing military strikes against Venezuela, targeting bases tied to the booming cocaine trade. Maduro calls it an act of aggression. Washington calls it a message of power. Our next report getting you the latest.
A new storm brews off the coast of South America. The Trump administration is gearing up for possible airstrikes on Venezuelan military facilities, U.S. officials confirmed to the Wall Street Journal. According to the U.S., these sites are allegedly used to smuggle cocaine. The move marks a dangerous new phase in America's confrontation with President Nicolas Maduro's regime, long accused by the Trump administration of running a narco state that floods U.S. streets with drugs. Intelligence reports say Pentagon has identified targets include airstrips, radar bases, and naval depots in western Venezuela. In the last few days, the tension has escalated sharply. The timing is explosive. American destroyers and aircraft carrier have deployed across the Caribbean in the largest anti-narcotics military operation in decades. Then came the strikes, swift, lethal, devastating. U.S. Navy assets patrolling the Caribbean blew up 4 suspected drug boats, killing 14 on board. Caracas retaliated with fiery claims saying Venezuelan air defenses shot down 3 drug planes near the Colombian border. Back in U.S., Congress fumes with a push to limit Trump's unchecked war powers. Critics slam the legality of these strikes, warning they flout international law, inviting chaos. Supporters insist the strikes cut off poison flowing into America and destruction of narco-terrorist empire in Venezuela. Until now, the fury of U.S. intervention remained focused offshore, but with American fighter jets, destroyers, and special forces massing, a land assault is only one spark away. Maduro is vowing resistance. Trump moves his pieces relentlessly, signaling decisive moves that could topple Venezuela's regime at any cost. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Europe facing the deadly tensions of a new nuclear brinkmanship as Putin tests nuclear weapons and Trump orders America to restart nuclear weapon tests. The continent, it seems, is bracing itself, caught in a relentless superpower standoff with fate hanging in the balance.
Putin's recent unveiling of the nuclear-powered cruise missile Burevestnik and the Poseidon underwater drone sent shockwaves through Europe. These weapons, cloaked in mystery and capable of catastrophic damage, epitomize the Kremlin's push to modernize its nuclear arsenal and secure strategic dominance. Russia's drills included nuclear launch exercises that rattled NATO's eastern flank, signaling a fierce readiness to defend its interests. Not to be outdone, Donald Trump abruptly ended the United States' 33-year moratorium on nuclear testing, ordering the Department of War to initiate nuclear weapons testing.
Well, we would work with the Department of Energy, but the President was clear. We need to have a credible nuclear deterrent. That is the baseline of our deterrence. And so having understanding and resuming testing is a pretty responsible, very responsible way to do that. I think it makes nuclear conflict less likely if you know what you have and make sure it operates properly. So it's the right directive.
Europe is caught in the crossfire. In response, EU member states are rushing to build a war highway, an initiative reconfiguring infrastructure and easing cross-border movements of tanks and troops. The aim is to ensure rapid deployment across the continent. The goal is to fortify the eastern flank against possible aggression. The continent witnessed the horrors of 2 world wars and is now bolstering its defenses, fearing a third. Eastern European nations, Poland, Estonia and Finland, are fortifying their borders, while France and Germany are quietly coordinating contingency plans for a nuclear emergency. Yet neither Trump nor Putin seems ready to blink. Both men are locked in a contest of pride and power, and for Europe, caught in between. The 21st century's nuclear race is no longer a theory. It's back, and it's real. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Wall Street stocks are set for another record run as strong earnings from big tech firms lifted sentiment after a brief pause in the relentless rally. The tech optimism offset the uncertainty surrounding the Federal Reserve's rate path and the economic impact from the ongoing US shutdown. US stocks opened in the green on Friday, a day after Wall Street benchmark slipped amid the tech weakness on massive AI spending plans. While Wall Street pumped the brakes on Thursday on jaw-dropping AI spending plans, Amazon's fastest cloud unit growth in nearly 3 years boosted the firm's stock to surge 12%. Apple stocks, meanwhile, gained on a revenue beat and a beat holiday forecast for its new iPhone 17 series. Nvidia's stock surge came after the chipmaker unveiled new AI deals with South Korean firms. The gains in Apple and Amazon offered investors a brief respite from Thursday's bruising session for tech mega caps. Meta, meanwhile, drew record demand for its $30 billion bond sale that signaled investors are looking past AI concerns and continuing to bet on a rally that has added $17 trillion in value since April. Energy stocks also were boosted after Shell announced a profit of $43 billion after production hit new highs in Brazil and the Gulf of Mexico. Still, Shell is on track to report lower annual profits this year compared with 2024. That is largely due to lower oil and gas prices in the global market, with the scenario at other major energy giants showing a similar pattern. Despite a pullback on Thursday, a measure of the S&P 500 marked the longest streak of surge since 2011. In fact, the benchmark currently trading above its 50-day moving average for 125 consecutive sessions. also marked the third longest stretch this century. The longest run since 2000 was 149 sessions, by the way, which ended in February 2007, just before the financial crisis. And before that, the index remained above its 50-day moving average for 257 consecutive trading days from January 1995 to January 1996, its longest streak on record, dating back to 1928. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 is trading 13% above its 200-day moving average, the widest gap since July 2024. This run has been historic. However, markets beyond the US shores are showing signs of fatigue after hitting fresh records. Asian and European markets seem to have completely ignored Wall Street's optimism. While an Asian stocks gauge edged lower on Friday, it still marked a 7th month of gains. However, in Europe, the index fell for a 4th straight day. And that puts the benchmark on track for its longest losing streak since July. Markets were mixed in other corners, with gold sliding as much as 1% before trimming some of those losses, but the yellow metals still held above $4,000 an ounce mark on Friday. Treasury yields rose across the curve and a gauge of the dollar steadied. Crude oil was little changed after closing out in the red on Thursday. It came from beyond our solar system, a mysterious wanderer streaking through the cosmic dark. It went behind the sun, but now it has reappeared. The interstellar visitor has returned, but it's strangely glowing brighter, pulsing with strange energy after its trip behind the sun. Astronomers are baffled. What is this all about? Our next report telling you.
It's a celestial enigma hurtling across the void. The interstellar comet 3I Atlas has reappeared, lighting up sensors across NASA's telescopes after vanishing behind the sun. When it emerged, scientists gasped. The object had grown 10 times brighter, glowing with a shimmer that defies expectations. NASA and European observatories are tracking the comet's intense ultraviolet and X-ray flares, signs of water vapor and dust blasting into space. But here's the mystery. The rate of brightening was far too fast for a normal comet. It was as if 3I Atlas had been recharged by the sun itself. 3I Atlas's trajectory points beyond our solar neighborhood, hurtling through space at mind-boggling speeds. But what causes its unexplained glow? Experts speculate the comet could harbor alien organic compounds or exotic materials unseen in solar system visitors before, a scientific jackpot for understanding our cosmic environment. This celestial intruder was first detected months ago, catching global attention as one of the few interstellar objects ever captured in human instruments. Its revisit now offers rare chances to study the birth materials of other star systems and the mechanics of cometary physics. Scientists are racing to decode its spectrum before it fades again. What's clear? 3I Atlas didn't come from here. Its orbit cuts through the solar system at an impossible angle, proof it was born around another star, carrying chemical secrets from a distant world. For now, it glows, silent, cold and unearthly, a messenger from another sun, whispering across the endless dark. Bureau Report WION, World is One.
It's a discovery that's turning science fiction into scientific possibility, it seems. NASA says a 2 billion-year-old asteroid sample contains a human-like protein. Evidence, perhaps, that the building blocks of life might not have started here on planet Earth. Could we all be the children of the stars in a way? Our next report decoding this for you.
For billions of years, asteroids have drifted through our solar system, cold ancient messengers from the dawn of time, but one of them may have carried more than just rock and dust. It may have carried us. In a stunning new twist to the theory that life on Earth may have originated in space. NASA scientists have detected traces of a human-like protein inside dust returned from a 2 billion-year-old asteroid. It's called panspermia, the idea that the ingredients for life didn't begin here but were delivered to Earth by comets, meteorites, or interstellar debris. Long dismissed as science fiction, the theory is now getting serious attention after NASA's OSIRIS-REx and Japan's Hayabusa 2 missions brought home pristine samples from ancient asteroids. Inside the samples, scientists identified 14 of the 20 amino acids used by life on Earth and chemical precursors of DNA and RNA, the two blueprints of biology. One molecule in particular appears to fold in patterns strikingly similar to human proteins. If the building blocks of life are written in interstellar objects, then perhaps we're not just children of Earth, perhaps we're children of the cosmos.
Our next story is about a phrase. It's just about everywhere, and now it's Dictionary.com's 2025 Word of the Year. You've perhaps guessed it right. It's the phrase that's gone viral. It's basically made up of two numbers, 6, 7. Not technically a word. Where did the phrase even come from? The trend reportedly tracing back to a rapper's 2024 track. It started making its way into TikTok videos. There was no looking back, leaving people confused in its wake. And there's no stopping it for now, it seems. It's been at the center of a lot of intrigue. Teenagers have been using it. Adults don't seem to understand what it means. You would have heard it, perhaps used it yourself, been curious about it and understood what it's all about, or maybe you're still scratching your head over it. Well, you are not alone, because it actually has no meaning as such. Even Dictionary.com reportedly said in a rather reassuring statement that they are still trying to figure out exactly what it means. Some interpret it as so-so when paired with the juggling hands gesture. Merriam-Webster reportedly describes it as a nonsensical expression used especially by teens and tweens, quote-unquote. And according to Dictionary.com, the phrase holds cultural value because it connects those who use it, and that its annual pick reflects the language shaping everyday conversation. Searches for the phrase, by the way, have gone up exponentially. So there's been a lot of curiosity associated with it. There have been memes, videos, mixed emotions about the phrase itself. One thing, though, is clear. It's here to stay. And there is no running away from it, at least for now. There's one name echoing across every corner of India today: Jemima Rodriguez. The woman who lit up the semi-finals, powering co-host India past defending champions Australia and into the grand final. But before this moment of glory, there were heartbreaks. Jemima's story did not begin with headlines or heroics. It began with a restless little girl who simply could not sit still. Following her brothers to the ground, bat in hand, at 16, the cricket-crazy teenager stood at Mumbai airport, waiting to greet India's returning heroes from the 2017 Women's World Cup, where they had reached the final. Smiling from under a cap, flashing a thumbs up at the players, she dreamt of joining one day. And soon that dream came true. She was wearing the India blue. She made her debut in the year 2018. And while she was a hit on social media with her lively off-field exploits, on-field journey was not always smooth, of course. Her first World Cup chapter began in heartbreak. Dropped from the 2022 World Cup squad after a lean run of form, she fought her way back to the team, and yet this World Cup brought fresh setbacks. She was dismissed for a duck twice in the tournament and was eventually dropped for the game against England. But she got her opportunity in the crunch game against New Zealand, and she made full use of it. by scoring 76 of 55 balls, and then came the semi-final. Not only did she play a remarkable innings, she also showed great maturity, something that she has been accused of lacking by some. By the end, she had spent nearly 100 overs on the field. She dropped to her knees, tears streaming down her face, teammates rushing to her side. As Amanjot Kaur hit the winning runs, there were more tears later on stage, in the dressing room, in the press room, but this time they were tears of redemption.